Story tonight from the intersection of politics and human lives. Texas Republicans recently endorsed a therapy that purports to turn gay people straight. It's known as reparative or gay conversion therapy. Keeping them honest, there's really no scientific evidence it works and plenty of reason to believe that it's actually harmful, particularly for minors. New Jersey and California have banned it for minors. In fact, well, the Texas GOP has now gone in the opposite direction, adding language supporting it to their party platform. Texas State Representative Brian Hughes voted for that change. I spoke to him earlier. Representative Hughes, why did you think it was necessary to put something in the state party platform advocating so-called reparative therapy for gay people? Why is that in the Republican Party platform?
The language is in the platform because we want to make sure that people have rights. And we heard from people that wanted access to that kind of counseling, that kind of therapy. And so we believe in free speech and free choice. And so it's important that in Texas, if people want that kind of help, they can get it. It's not being forced on anyone, but for folks who want it, it should be available.
But is that under threat? I mean, was that really even a question? I know in New Jersey and California, it's still allowed. I know a lot of people in Texas kind of have been indicating that it's been banned, but you know that's not true.
Well, I've learned that there were concerns from California, New Jersey, maybe other states that it could be limited or taken away in some cases. And so the platform begins in Texas at the precinct level. And in this case, a neighbor of one of our delegates had been through this therapy. It was helpful to him, and he was concerned it might be taken away. He approached her, and she took the process to the county and the state level, and that's how it became part of the platform. This is about giving people choices. If they want this, it should be available to them.
Even if the vast majority of medical associations say that actually this form of alleged counseling or alleged therapy can be harmful to kids. There's a task force, the American Psychological Association, that said that efforts to change sexual orientation are not only unlikely to be successful, but they involve a risk of harm. American Psychiatric Association basically says the same thing, that it potential risks of depression, anxiety, self-destructive behavior. Do you really think that kids should be subjected to that based on what maybe their parents want?
From what I've read, there's medical literature on both sides of the issue. This is really about choice, about options.
There's really not. It's really just not accurate to say that, you know, doctors are evenly divided. I can give you a list: the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Counseling Association, American Psychiatric Association, the American Psychological Association, the American School Counselor Association, the National Association of School Psychologists, National Association of Social Workers. I mean, they represent 500,000 mental health professionals. They all say this is not a mental disorder and it's not something that needs to be cured.
Well, there are members of those groups who feel differently. Some testified before the committee. Some have testified in other places. People testified before the platform committee at our convention, both pro and con. Individuals,
that's actually
also
not
professionals,
true,
therapists.
You know that it's actually
I beg your pardon?
That's actually not true. I know people testified for it in front of the platform, but according to a number of groups, gay groups there, who weren't even allowed to have booths at where the platform was, they weren't allowed to argue against it because of a parliamentary procedure. Debate was closed before they had a chance to voice their opposition to it, and it was immediately put to a vote. You're aware of that, right?
I think we're conflating the process. In the platform committee, there was testimony on the issue. When the bill came to the floor,
who opposed to it testified? Do you know?
I don't know. I wasn't there. Okay. But let me be clear. In the committee, there was testimony. When the platform came to the floor, there were a number of amendments to be offered. I had some on some fiscal matters and other things, and those did not get debated because folks wanted to close debate and go home. But there was plenty of discussion on both sides of this issue.
I want to play a clip of an interview I did last year with a man named Alan Chambers, who was head of a group called Exodus International. You probably know about them. They were the oldest, probably most well-known so-called ex-gay group. He's since apologized for advocating reparative therapy. I just want to play you what he said.
I believe that causes all sorts of trauma. And I know that there are people who have taken their life because they felt so ashamed of who they are, felt like God couldn't love them as they are. And that's something that will haunt me until the day I die.
Do you now believe that it's possible to change your sexual orientation?
No, I don't.
This guy ran like the biggest ex-gay group for years and years. Does that concern you again that your party is now backing a form of therapy which basically every major medical organization says doesn't work, can be harmful, and which many of the people who have been through it say it just doesn't work and is bad for kids?
Well, I have heard of him, and I don't know a lot of details about the situation, but we heard testimony, and we've also read reports from other experts who say it's helpful for some of their patients. I want to take exception to something he said. No one is saying that God doesn't love people as they are. I mean, there's nothing in the platform about that. No one is trying to take that position. Every one of us makes mistakes, makes decisions we're not proud of. God loves each one of us, and He offers a way for us to deal with sin and with bad choices. But I do strongly disagree with what he said about God loving, not loving people. That's just not right.
The fact that you view being gay or you characterize it as a mistake or something that should be changed, really kind of maybe says more about your position than what your words actually say.
I was speaking about every one of us, whatever we do, whatever choices we make.
Over the years, this party platform has actually had a lot of language which is very anti-gay. In fact, up until this year, your platform said homosexuality tears at the fabric of society. And that's a platform I assume you supported, correct?
Well, as we discussed, there was a debate on these issues at the convention. Some folks wanted stronger language, some folks wanted different language.
Right, but in the past, that language was in
with.
there. So you supported that, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
You believe that homosexuality tears the fabric of society.
I have voted for that platform in the past. I believe that God has created us to work in a certain way. And when we deviate from that in any area, there are consequences. It doesn't mean He doesn't love us. It doesn't mean we can't love Him, we can't be saved. But if you're asking for my personal opinion, I don't believe that's God's best for the way we should live. I'm not speaking for the Republican Party. I'm giving you my opinion.
Representative Hughes, I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.